Good morning, everyone. I'm sure that many of you are aware that there were local elections held on Thursday to determine who will run 143 councils and who will be 14 mayors in the country. You might have seen the polling station sign outside the Grange, which is where people from this area were able to go and vote for the party or person they wanted to run Kent County Council. Kent's one of 24 county councils in England, and they're responsible for public services in the county. Things like education, transport, emergency services, and other social services. There are also smaller district councils and other administrative areas. These local elections were delayed from last year. It was the first time in 20 years that elections had to be delayed. The last time was in 2001, when there was an outbreak of foot and mouth disease. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for in elections such as this. That obviously is your choice, and you should do so in an informed way. But I do want to talk about the importance of using your vote. There are a number of reasons why voting is so important. At the simplest level, it gives you an opportunity to give your point of view. Ultimately, you can't complain about something if you haven't voted against it. It's also really important that you vote as soon as you're able to. In almost all cases, this is once you reach the age of 18. Politicians will often look at voter turnout to see what policies they might implement or talk about. For example, in the 2019 general election, only 47% of 18 to 24-year-olds actually voted, whereas 74% of people over 65 voted. This means that the politicians are more likely to publicise and bring in policies that benefit all the older people. If you vote, it's more likely that you'll benefit from what the government does, and they'll bring in policies that directly benefit you. One important factor to remember, and one that's often quoted, is that so many people have campaigned throughout history to ensure that you are able to vote. In the 1800s, less than 10% of the male population were allowed to vote. And so on the 16th of August, 1819, a rally was organised at St. Peter's Field in Manchester, and approximately 60,000 people attended. Tensions were running high, and the cavalry were brought in to disperse the crowd. They charged, and 18 people were killed, and over 500 were injured. It was later termed the Peterloo Massacre, and initially it had the opposite effect of a clampdown on any reform or change. However, it was certainly a catalyst, and eventually, in 1832, the Reform Act was brought in, which allowed roughly 1 in 5 men the right to vote. However, this was a long way away from the situation today, where everyone in the country has that right. It wasn't until 86 years later, in 1918, that the women's suffrage movement made real progress against this inequality. You may well know the story of Emily Davison, who died while protesting when she threw herself under King George V's horse at the Epsom Derby. This led to Parliament passing the Representation of the People's Act, which was the first step on the road to giving all women the right to vote. We are very fortunate to live in a society that offers us choices and allows us to be part of the conversation that influences the way in which our country is run. I very much hope that once you are able to vote, whether in this country or elsewhere, you take up that opportunity. You do so in an informed way. You vote for the principles that you believe in, and in doing so, help to improve the society that we all live in. I hope that you have a good week.